The My Colorful Nana Project is a collected group of generous thinkers. It is an invitation for all to expand upon and celebrate their definitions of the words beauty and blackness.
My name is Stockmon Brown, and I am the founder of the My Colorful Nana Project. And thanks for listening.
What is beauty? What is femininity? What is blackness? Is black hair beautiful? Does it matter? I don't know. You tell me.
My name is Meskie Taylor. I'm 20. That's getting new. I'm like a few weeks into 20.
Have your time.
Anyways, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. What I'm studying at Gallatin, I'll let y'all know when I figure it out.
Always a tough question.
I am a black, specifically. So identify Ethiopian, if you want to get more specific about it. I think my journey and my perspective is a little bit confusing for me, and because I'm black, I'm Ethiopian, but I am in a family dynamics that's all white. Most of my friends are all white. My community's all white. My family's all white. Love them. That's not an always bad thing, but it made it really hard to relate.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family dynamic?
Like me and my little brother were adopted from Ethiopia. I was 8 and he was 6. My family are your, typical American white family. I have 3 older siblings, but yeah, and then my parents. We'd go out, hell, just go the trip to Starbucks to grab coffee or something, and people would always stare at me, at my hair, the whole deal. Nobody ever assumes, oh, they're a family, or that's their daughter. Assumption is never the first one that goes to people's heads, and I get it. I think one of the things my dad used to say, and he's a sweetheart, he literally would go, oh, they're staring at you because you're beautiful. And I was like, I know I am, but that's not why. And you saying that because you want me to feel better, and because you obviously don't, you don't want me to focus on the negative reasons why they're staring at me. That's kind of pushing over my uncomfortableness and me getting upset.
Yes.
Just because you're trying to appease me.
Yes.
And I don't like it, because I'd rather you just let me rant and go on about how annoying white people are for an hour and sit there and listen to me, which they do constantly.
So when you guys have those conversations of if you're over here saying, white people are so annoying because and if you're talking to a white person, but they're also your mom and your dad,
no, right. And I think one thing that's always really clear, something that's always really clear to understand, and something that we know is we're I'm coming from a place of I don't ever associate every white person to be the same, but sometimes in my rants or my venting sessions is what we call them. In those instances, I'm angry and I'm just ranting about thing that happened that was clearly that was because I was black and wouldn't have happened to anybody else. My parents fully understand that. They hate it. They hate that I have to experience that. And I think one thing about my dad to adopting black kids, he's I want to, but I think I would be heartbroken having to see them go through racism here in America. Once we adopted and brought them over, because that is the reality of it. I don't know if I could handle it. And that's hard. And my parents kind of react differently to the situation. But for me, one thing that allowed me to cope with it, handle it, process it, vent through it, whatever, right? I didn't want to just bottle it up, and that was never something that, my parents condone that I should do. Was, I make fun of the situation. I remember we were on a family trip. It was just me and my dad, and there were other family on this trip too, and it was been with them for a few days, and one of them got comfortable enough to be kind of asked about our family dynamics, how does that happen? And I, on this, we're hiking, they're hiking next to us, and they're asking us this question, and I make this entire story up about how actually, what happened was my mom and my dad kind of decided to open up their relationship for a while, and that resulted in my mom getting pregnant, being impregnated by a black guy. And having me, just craziest thing.
What do you get from doing that?
I get to laugh at your, I get to laugh. I get to make the situation funny, and I get to I get to outdo whatever, sick racist scenario, that assumptions that you've made about what my family dynamics is made up of. I get to top that. And I get to make you more uncomfortable, because now you don't know how to respond. in that situation.
That is fascinating.
And that's fun for me. Like, and because that allows me to laugh at it. You shouldn't be asking me that question. And now, next time, you definitely won't be asking that question. Whatever scenario it is in. You thought that was TMI. You're like, wow, they're crazy. Whatever it is, I don't care. My point is, like, it makes it fun for me. I get to laugh. I get to be happy rather than, like, focus on just, like, how racist and annoying and passive-aggressive, you know. And, also, I'm not African-American. That's a different identity. Like, I don't have that historical context, you know, that I can claim.
See, that's really fascinating because we talk about how African Americans don't even feel like they have an identity to claim.
Right, and that is a specific, you know, thing that makes up being an African American. And for me, like, I'm Ethiopian. My dad was in the Ethiopian army. You know what I mean? Like, I can trace it back. I know my family. Like, I know my aunts. We've probably been, you know, we've stayed in Ethiopia as long as I can remember. Like, first of all, like, I didn't really see white people for the first time until, like, my orphanage. The white families that would come and adopt, or also, like, a few people that were working there that were white, because, again, it was like, run by an American agency, actually based in New York, so on and so forth. And then, you know, I got adopted into a family that was all white. I knew that was different, but I didn't understand the real world realities of what that meant, especially in America. It was predominantly white. You know, like, I wasn't in Ethiopia. Like, everybody I saw in Ethiopia looked exactly like me, you know, and it's just, that was just how it was. And for me, like, I was like, oh, cool, like, they look different. But that was kind of all that was it. Like, I noted the difference. I'm not blind, but I didn't associate with it what you associate with race when you grow up here and you grow up with the structure. Again, like, the kids I was going to school with were all white. I didn't really understand, like, a lot of their comments. Like, they thought my hair was, like, interesting, but I still thought theirs was interesting, too. Like, there was, like, the level of curiosity was, like, up there with me, right? Like, I was like, yours is, like, practically white hair. Like, that's crazy. Like, I'd never seen that, you know? So, like, that was cool for both of us. But then, like, you know, I think I hit, like, 5th grade, and and I just remember somebody, like, asked me a question that I was like, I didn't notice that. But why is that kind of thing? That also, like, got me curious. I didn't know how to answer the question. And it was literally, the question I got was, why are my top and bottom lips 2 different colors?
Why your top
yeah, because, like, I guess
bottom lips are different colors.
Yeah, because, like, I guess my bottom is more your typical, like, pinkish lip, and the top is, like, more brown, whatever.
Your skin
like,
color.
Yeah, you know, that was a really good friend of mine who asked me that. Again, like, we both did not know the answer to that. We're like, yeah, I guess that's true. And we were both looking at each other. It was like, what the heck? You know, I, like, went on my computer and was like, like, typed into Google, like, why is that? Like, I was like, am I sick? Like, I don't know. And then this whole world of microaggressions, like, Black women who get these kinds of questions type of thing. And I started reading, and then I was like, oh, like, that's what it is. And then suddenly I just started to notice it. Oh, wow, like, yeah, okay. Quote unquote, like, innocent questions have a level of hierarchy to them, which they didn't before. And that hierarchy comes once you understand the historical significance of race, like, that we've given it, and, like, very real consequences, right? And I didn't have that. And so then, like, I started doing more reading and more research again. Like, that was always a lot of work, was that I was having to be proactive and go do the additional work that I think Black Americans have their family kind of do for them already, or they've done, or whatever. Some of the questions are coming from people who legit think I'm insignificant, or, like, I'm less than, or that it has that kind of connotation to it, right? And then, like, other questions, they're like, you're right. Like, for example, like, I don't know how to do half the hairstyles that, like, African Americans, like, just have, or, like, know where to go to.
You came to America. Some shocking things were: 1, the poverty line; 2, it was interesting to come to America because you had an equal amount of curiosity as the white people had about you. Right. So, like, they saw your hair and they said, oh my God, that's so interesting. And you saw their hair and you said, oh my God, that's so interesting. Right. 5th grade hits and someone asks you about the color of your lips. Right. So you Google it. And you find the word microaggressions. You learn that microaggressions are, yes, curiosity may come from an innocent place of curiosity, but it becomes more jaded when it's leveled with hierarchy.
Right. The perk of being white is that, like, you don't have to know anything other than what you need to know in order to be white. You know what I mean? Or like in order to like fit into that aspect of white, which is like how to do your hair, which is white hair. What you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff, which is insane because like I can look at a white woman, whatever hairstyle she has, and know exactly how she got there. And I guarantee you, and in fact, like feel very confident assuming that most white people that you encounter will not know how you got your hair to be that way, you know, and it's and that just goes to show you that like, you know, how crazy is that like I know that much about whiteness, but like that's not reciprocated, and just because it never has to be. Like in order to navigate their life, they don't need to know that. Like I need to know how to do that because I might need to put my hair that way in order to get a job. Like whatever, you know, like there's that stuff. Look, I talked about this stuff with my friends who are women of color, like those are my friends that are having these conversations with me. And one thing that always gets me really frustrated is that like in these spaces where these conversations, like Black people are having the awkward conversations, they're having the uncomfortable conversations, and people of like who are people of color are generally having those conversations, but like, you know, and in our white friends that like are in our friend groups that are like in our diverse set of friend groups are doing that stuff. But like but the point is, majority of white people, like, no, that's not a conversation they ever had. Like that's not something that they even think about having, right? And like one thing that's always frustrating is I think like white people can, you know, every day go through their lives, their entire lives, without ever not having to be uncomfortable and ever have conversations. Period. And that's how they uphold their privilege. You know what I mean? Like that is one of the things that they never have to like confront it, like face it or whatnot. And that is something that like is really problematic. And so, you know, one thing that's always really neat is for me, like I have a family that's really diverse and we always have these conversations.
Wonderful.
You know, like to whatever degree it is. Like I've had people react to like my family dynamics or just say stuff about like my white family that's definitely projecting their own racist white views. I've been in predominantly Black or African American crowds where I'm considered not to be Black enough, not to be white.
What makes you not Black enough too?
That's the crazy thing. So like I think for people like and don't get me wrong, like I get this from white people all the time. They're like, oh, you're not Black enough because I talk like them, or you know, like I literally have had people, like white people, go to my face and be like, you need to talk more ghetto.
Following this interview with Meskie Taylor, I learned that identity has no limits. These boundaries and constructs that Black women face is a result of white privilege. And as Meskie requested that I add, privilege is a white problem, not a Black problem, based in hierarchy and ignorance.
You know, my family being white does give me a lot of privilege, right? Because my proximity to whiteness, people will be nicer, and that's somehow like a pass. To white people, they make comments like, oh, so you're the good one, when they think I'm smart, when I'm articulate, when I'm getting good grades, or have manners, whatever it is. They want to attribute that to the fact that my parents are white. Not even the fact that they're good parents and they taught me well, but it's because they're white, and so therefore I have these good traits that make me the quote-unquote like good Black folk because of my white parents. So they get all the credit and strips me of my Blackness, which is a really huge part of who I am.
For this reason, the intersectionality of difference for Black women, dependent on race, gender, and potentially even sexuality, allows a unique consciousness to form. This is a distinct way of seeing and living in this world that is catered to the white perspective, and it deserves to be heard. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
really
for
means a
having
lot
me.
to me.
I was honored to get asked.
Of course. Thank you all for listening and thinking generously, and I hope to see you next week.